The heist doesn't start with a smash of glass or a drill on a vault door. It starts with a voice. Calm, confident, almost bored. A caller who knows exactly which help desk line to dial and what time of night the queue is thinnest. A caller who can answer the little verification questions the way an employee would, because they've rehearsed the script and they've done their homework. The lights along the casino floor pulse like a heartbeat, the air smelling faintly of ozone and perfume and carpet cleaner. But the real action is happening inside an identity portal you will never see. A checkbox gets ticked, a factor gets reset, an account that should have been locked behind fish-proof gates is suddenly available. To anyone who can imitate the tone of a harried staffer, juggling a night shift and a broken phone, there is no dramatic cut to black. The slots spin, the bars pour, the theater sound checks. In the back of house, a few identity logs ripple. Failed push here. Successful re-enrollment there, but nothing screams. Security teams are conditioned to chase loud failures. Endpoints detonating encryptors. File servers spiking with frantic I/O, databases throwing errors like fireworks. This isn't loud. This is a whisper, a stolen foothold big enough to wedge open a door. And behind that door is a hallway that connects to everything modern hospitality has learned to run in the cloud. Reservations. Loyalty programs, data lakes, and the single pane of glass that tells a brand who you are and how to treat you like royalty. When the ransom note comes, there is still no noise. Not the kind that makes the evening news. No blinking marquees announcing we are down. No paper receipts scribbled in ballpoint at check-in. Instead, there is a message on a quiet channel with the clinical tone of a debt collector. We have a copy of your crown jewels. Pay to prevent their release. The number is crafted to sting, but not to kill. The proof-of-life samples are the kind that make even seasoned executives breathe a little shallow. Names paired with identifiers, the bureaucratic details guests entrust for convenience that can ruin lives when flung into the wild. Inside the incident room, the mood bends into that strange quiet that follows shock. No one is running around with hair on fire. They are running their playbooks in clipped, practiced voices. Identity engineers are turning dials most people don't know exist. Revoking sessions, binding roles to hardware-backed keys, dismantling the little exceptions that made life easier until today. Data teams are tracing lineage like forensic accountants, asking where a given field came from and where else it lives and who can read it at 3 a.m. Counsel is on the line, the cadence of their questions as much triage as legal, and over it all hangs the calculus that no one likes but everyone understands. Cut a check to reduce harm, or refuse and prepare for a leak that will echo for months. This is the story of Caesars Entertainment and a 2023 extortion campaign engineered not to knock out the lights, but to seize the leverage that matters most in a service empire: trust. It is the story of how a casino company, equal parts hospitality platform, data operation, and entertainment machine, met an adversary fluent not in zero-day exploits, but in the grammars of identity and persuasion. And it is the story of how a brand that sells luck learned, for a few tense weeks, what it feels like to live inside probability curves you didn't choose. To understand why this incident hit so hard, you have to understand what a company like Caesars actually is. It's easy to see the glitz and think casinos, but the business is a mesh of systems that make the glitz feel effortless. Hotel property management engines juggle reservations, housekeeping, and rates across dozens of properties as if they were a single organism. Point-of-sale systems tie every drink and dinner and show ticket back to a guest profile. Event ticketing and restaurant booking platforms orchestrate the flow of people from airport to check-in to the aisle seat at a headliner's show. Surveillance and access control systems protect cages, count rooms, back corridors, and loading docks. Payroll and HR keep a small city's worth of staff moving in shifts. Third-party vendors plug in everywhere to make golf tee times, spa treatments, and nightclub tables feel like a single app. The unifying heartbeat is identity. Identity decides who logs into which console and what happens when they forget a password an hour before doors open. Identity is how a loyalty program recognizes a guest at the front desk and says, "Welcome back, we've upgraded you." Identity is how a third-party operations team fixes a stuck integration at midnight, without someone waking up the only on-call engineer who knows the legacy vendor AS quirks. All of that is glued together by Cloud Federation, a central identity provider that promises one secure login for many services, and a scaffolding of policies that say, when a user's device is healthy enough, trusted enough, known enough to be let into the rooms where the business lives, the other pulse is data. Hospitality is a long-running experiment in turning preference into revenue. A modern resort chain does not just hand you a room key, it builds a model of your visit so it can anticipate the next one. That modeling runs on information guests willingly supply for convenience and perks. Names, addresses, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, sometimes even social security numbers when regulatory or tax rules require it. Multiply that across tens of millions of loyalty accounts and glue it to purchase histories, reservation habits, and geographic patterns, and you have an engine as valuable as any bank's customer database. That engine is both precious and precarious. If stolen, you cannot rotate a guest's birth date the way you rotate a password. By 2023, extortion crews understood a simple truth. You don't have to break a company to make it bleed. Traditional ransomware, encrypt everything and sell the key back, still exists, but it is loud and it leaves evidence everywhere. The quieter, faster path is to slip in, make a copy of the data that would most embarrass or endanger your victim, and then trade on the one thing every brand fears losing more than money: public trust. A ransomware incident today can be encryption-free. All you need is an exfiltrated archive and a countdown clock. There's also a cultural truth about how large organizations interact with identity. Help desks are designed to help. They reward speed and empathy. The central identity provider is designed to make access easy, once bound to the right device and factors. Exceptions pile up because life at scale is messy. A vendor needs a one-off login for a hotfix. A manager gets a sticky admin role because they're always getting called. A property at the edge of the network struggles with coverage and asks for a bypass on a check that fails in a basement break room. Each exception seems harmless. Together, they become the path of least resistance, not just for harried employees, but for adversaries well-versed in social engineering. That is the context into which Caesar's 2023 incident arrived. It matters because it showed in a brand everyone recognizes how the new playbook works. It matters because it forced a public conversation about the unglamorous parts of security: identity hygiene, vendor access governance, high-assurance verification, at help desks that determine whether a determined attacker can turn voice and confidence into admin and exfiltration. And it matters because it framed, in real time, the ethical and strategic dilemma at the heart of data extortion. Pay to contain harm knowing you are feeding the economy that will try again, or refuse on principle and accept that your customers will be the ones harmed first. The opening scene is not an alert in a SOC dashboard. It's a phone call. Late August night shift, a support queue that stretches like taffy when the properties run 24/7. The voice on the other end claims to be an employee locked out of their account. They can parrot the internal acronyms that signal familiarity. They have just enough detail to answer knowledge-based questions with confidence. They sound harried, apologetic, reasonable. They don't ask for the moon, just a reset. The rep, under time pressure and steeped in a culture of make it right, does what they would do for any colleague in a bind. In identity logs, a few innocuous events bloom. A factor is re-enrolled. A remembered device flag flips. A password reset completes. The account owner, if they are even aware, may shrug. Must be the help desk cleaning up a lockout. The attacker doesn't sprint. They tiptoe. They confirm the account works in the places they expect. They try a few doors to see which ones open. They learn how this particular house is laid out, which SaaS apps are tied to which roles, which consoles are available from which networks, which admin panels are a step away if only the system thinks they are sitting at a different desk. The next scene is a pivot. An account that began life as a routine user may sit near, or be able to impersonate, someone with more reach. The attacker studies how elevation works here. Do privileged actions require a second factor? And can that factor be socially engineered as well? Are there old service accounts bound to integrations that predate modern identity hygiene? Is there a vendor relationship? An IT support partner with delegated admin that leads to a higher plateau? They are patient enough to wait until they can move without tripping alarms that will kill their shot at the data they want. As late summer drifts into September, quiet becomes a strategy. The intruder lands in the identity provider's administrative periphery, close enough to influence who can become whom, far enough from the center that a casual glance at dashboards looks normal. They enumerate where the sensitive data lives, the systems of record that underpin the loyalty program, the exports and backups that fuel analytics, the object stores where marketing drops files for campaigns or compliance pulls extracts for audits. They don't need everything. They need the slices that convert into pressure. Exfiltration is staged like a careful heist. The attacker cherry-picks fields that carry weight, names paired with government identifiers, contact details that map to a human life, perhaps internal IDs that signal the breadth of what they touched without handing over every secret. They compress and encrypt, and they move the bundles along channels that are abundant in modern enterprises. Outbound connections to cloud storage, SDKs that applications use 1,000 times a day, transports that won't startle a firewall because 1,000 legitimate jobs use them every hour. There is a rhythm to this work. Copy a little, wait. Verify access persists, copy a little more. Then the message. It doesn't hit a main inbox. It arrives where incident responders know to look when extortion is the goal. The tone is contractual. We possess X, pay Y before Z. The samples are attached with the smug confidence of someone who has played this game repeatedly. Internally, executives, counsel, and security leaders huddle. The triage questions are familiar and brutal. What exactly left? How many people are implicated? How strong is our telemetry? Is there any chance the attacker is bluffing? What happens if we pay and they leak anyway? What happens if we don't and they leak tomorrow? What can we do today to reduce harm regardless of the decision? Publicly, life goes on. Guests redeem points for dinners. Check-in lines rise and fall with flights. Dealers turn cards. The absence of operational outages is not an accident. It's the adversary's plan. If systems stay up, the victim has time to weigh options in the relative calm of business as usual, and the attacker avoids the heat that always comes when an operational crisis lands in the press. Behind the scenes, there is nothing calm about it. Identity teams are stripping privileges and invalidating sessions, sometimes at the cost of short-term productivity. Data teams are confirming the scope not by inference but by evidence. Counsel is preparing disclosures because in a regulated world, you do not get to stay silent when certain categories of information are exfiltrated. Mid-September, the company discloses. The wording is as precise as legal can make it without undercutting the technical truth. An unauthorized actor exfiltrated a copy of certain personal information related to loyalty members. The systems remain operational. Affected individuals will be notified. Support will be offered. The decision about the ransom is not in the press release. It is in rooms where the calculus balances immediate human harm against longer-term ecosystem harm. Eventually, that calculus lands. The clock stops. The company continues running. The story moves from urgent to enduring. In the weeks that follow, life is a braid of normal and not. A conference on property proceeds under chandelier light while 2 floors up. IT is ripping out the little workarounds that made last month feel easy. And call centers field the questions that no brand wants to answer. What did they take? What should I do? Am I safe? The incident fades from public view, long before it fades from the daily lives of the people who had to hold the line under the soft glow of a data center as status LEDs. And the company begins the long tail. Legal responses, regulatory engagements, insurance negotiations, and the program of work that will make the next incident harder to stage and easier to spot. What makes this incident compelling is also what makes it uncomfortable. It didn't require exotic malware or secret vulnerabilities. It required the careful exploitation of identity processes that worked exactly as designed, only for the wrong person. Let's break that down with the cool forensic eye the situation deserves. Initial access appears to have been won through social engineering at the help desk layer. That is not a failure of a single person so much as a systemic flaw. A process optimized for speed and empathy confronted by an adversary optimized for persuasion. Knowledge-based authentication, verifying identity, and project names leak constantly through normal business life. If a caller can blend internal lingo with publicly gleaned facts, they can clear a surprising number of gates. From there, the next step is often factor enrollment. Modern identity systems rightly require a second factor for sensitive actions. But the workflow for re-enrolling a factor when a user loses a device is a perennial soft spot. If re-enrollment relies on the same weak knowledge checks, the attacker can bind their own device as the new factor, at which point they truly are the user in the eyes of the system. Any subsequent login telemetry will look like a remembered second factor, not a fresh compromise. Privilege escalation in a federated environment typically takes one of 3 forms: misscoped roles in the identity provider that grant broader reach than intended, legacy service accounts bound to important applications that either don't enforce MFA or use static secrets, or delegated admin through third-party support relationships where an external engineer has the ability to modify configurations across tenants. In every large organization, at least one of those is present, often justified by, we need to move fast, or we can refactor that integration until after peak season. An attacker with patience and time can try each path until one yields. Once the attacker reaches administrative proximity, they go hunting for data, not systems. In hospitality, that hunt points at loyalty systems, both transactional databases and analytic stores. The transactional layer contains authoritative records. The analytic layer contains denormalized exports, often with broader scope because marketing prefers wide tables for segmentation and modeling. The analytic stores are attractive because they are designed for read-heavy workloads and often integrate with a smorgasbord of tools that make bulk export a normal operation. If you can impersonate the right role, you look like a reporting job. Exfiltration techniques are predictable and effective. Compress and encrypt at the source to minimize noise and prevent content inspection from seeing inside. Use permitted egress channels, cloud storage SDKs, HTTPS to well-known endpoints, or even the APIs of the very SaaS platforms the business uses every day. Throttle the transfer so it fits into baseline patterns. Stage the data in small bundles so you can bail if detection turns up, leaving less evidence and fewer breadcrumbs. Detection and response here hinge on two capabilities many organizations lack or underutilize. First, rich identity telemetry treated as a first-class security signal. Every factor, reset, device enrollment, privilege change, and high-sensitivity login should be logged, correlated, and scored. If a help desk agent approves 3 re-enrollments in an hour, that's not only a quality metric, it's a potential incident. If a user with no history of accessing data warehouses suddenly queries 1 million records at 4:09 a.m., that's not a curiosity, it's a page. Second, high-speed identity intervention. When you suspect compromise, you need playbooks that revoke tokens across the cloud estate, enforce re-authentication with phishing-resistant factors, and strip roles en masse in minutes. Why didn't we see ransomware in the classic form? Because encryptors were unnecessary to the chosen leverage. The attacker's goal was not to stop the business from functioning. It was to compel a payment by threatening the business's relationships with its guests. Encryption would have risked detection earlier and invited a public operational crisis. The extortion model that leverages stolen data is stronger when operations hum along, because the victim has more to lose reputationally and fewer immediate fires to justify delaying negotiations. On the defensive side, the strongest countermeasures are the unsexy ones. Replace knowledge-based verification at help desks with out-of-band, hardware-backed checks tied to pre-enrolled devices. Make factor re-enrollment a high-assurance, high-friction process that routes through a specialized team with the authority to say no. Convert standing admin roles to just-in-time elevation with session recording, bound to compliant devices. Kill legacy service accounts or wrap them in brokered access that applies modern controls retroactively. And crucially, force the same bar on third-party admins that you force on your own staff. The immediate impact most people judge. Did the resort go dark? Never materialized by design. Guests arriving during the incident had no reason to know anything was amiss. But the absence of disruption does not mean the absence of damage. The first category of harm is human. When an attacker copies personal information, the people whose information is stolen become the frontline victims. Notices go out. Credit monitoring is offered. Anxiety sets in. The risk is not abstract when it is your driver IDAS license number on a list in an extortionist UNAS archive. The company absorbs that moral weight, whether or not a firm somewhere writes a check. The second category is operational but invisible to guests. The incident response absorbs entire teams. Projects stall, roadmaps slip. Budget earmarked for features is diverted into hardening identity and data governance. Every exception high-level leaders once tolerated is suddenly a find it and kill it mission. That work is good and necessary, but it exacts a price in momentum. For weeks, the engineering culture breathes in the staccato rhythm of crisis. Triage, fix, verify, communicate, repeat. Financially, the ledger is complicated. There is the ransom itself if paid, and the services of incident responders and counsel and forensics. There are technology costs to implement controls that in truth should have been there already. There are increases in insurance premiums and the painful discovery of exclusions that become bargaining chips with carriers. There is the long tail of legal exposure, including class actions and regulatory scrutiny. which eats time and attention a year after the rest of the world has moved on. Shareholders rarely see a neat line item labeled breach fatigue, but inside the company everyone feels it. Reputationally, a hospitality brand's most valuable asset is the sense that they treat me well and keep my information safe. The notice letters are careful, the FAQs are thorough, but trust is not rebuilt with templates. It is rebuilt with time and with visible, credible changes. Guests talk. They ask their friends, "Did you get a letter?" They decide quietly whether the perks are worth the perceived risk. In a market where loyalty is a currency, that quiet decision can be brutal. For the industry, the incident served as a syllabus. It taught peers that identity is not just the enabler, it is the battlefield. It highlighted that vendor access is not a convenience. It is an obligation to enforce parity of controls across organizational boundaries. It normalized the idea that extortion can be decoupled from disruption. Security leaders across hospitality used the episode to win budget, not just for new tooling, but for rewiring process, hard stops on help desk resets, mandatory phishing-resistant authentication for anyone with access to sensitive data, and contraction of privileged roles from too many to a handful with accountability. There is also a policy undertow that matters. Publicly traded companies now face tighter rules about when and how to disclose material cyber incidents. The balance between timely transparency and not giving the adversary more leverage is delicate. This incident became part of that evolving case law in the court of public markets. Disclose too little and you appear evasive. Disclose too much, and you risk making it easier for criminals to calibrate their pressure. The way this case threaded that needle will inform how others do it tomorrow. Finally, the incident rippled into the attacker economy. Success breeds imitation. Crews specializing in help desk social engineering refined their scripts and sold their playbooks. Ransomware franchises hungry for affiliates advertised their leak sites as pressure multipliers for exfiltration-only jobs. The marketplace that victimized one brand expanded its stock and trade, making it more likely that the next target would face a voice on the phone with a better script and a cleaner path to the prize. First, help desks will evolve from customer service to identity guardians. That means replacing knowledge-based questions with verifiable hardware-bound checks and moving factor resets to workflows that assume adversarial pressure. In practice, this will look like agents authenticating callers by triggering a sign request to a pre-registered security key or a platform authenticator on a managed device, not accepting a birth date or an employee ID as proof. It will also look like scripts that bless no as a correct outcome, and metrics that reward correctly refused requests as much as rapid resolutions. Second, phishing-resistant authentication will become the floor, not the ceiling. For anyone who can move money or data, we will see widespread adoption of FIDO2 security keys and platform authenticators, with device binding across privileged users, followed by expanding circles that eventually include anyone whose account can touch guest PII, change identity settings, or manage data pipelines. Remember this device for 30 days. Convenience that used to be standard will be pruned for high-risk actions, replaced with step-up prompts that cannot be relayed by a fake login page. Third, just-in-time privilege will replace standing admin, instead of carrying permanent roles that unlock entire consoles. Administrators will request elevation for a specific task window, gated by approvals, device posture, and recorded sessions. This compresses the time and space in which a compromised account can do damage. It also forces organizations to articulate who needs what and why, which tends to flush out the "we gave them that because it was easier" archaeology that attackers love. Fourth, vendor access will be rebuilt around parity. If a contractor can influence your identity provider or your data estate, they must live under your controls. Contracts will codify hardware-bound MFA, device attestation, named accounts, and session recording. Delegated admin will become a narrow, scheduled event blessed by 2 humans in 2 organizations. Access revocation will be automated and instantaneous. And organizations will begin to audit these controls not annually, but as part of normal operations, because what you don't inspect in a federated ecosystem will drift. Fifth, data minimization will move from slogan to schematics. Loyalty programs will inventory which fields are mission-critical and which are legacy baggage. Analytics teams will stop hoarding entire identity tables for convenience, using privacy-preserving joins and tokenization to answer the same questions without carting around identifiers. Exports will have TTLs enforced by policy, not courtesy. Large pulls will require approvals and will automatically trigger monitoring, that places a human in the loop. Backups of sensitive data sets will be encrypted with keys bound to hardware modules and split trust, reducing the chance that one compromised admin can extract everything. Sixth, SOCs will treat identity logs as production telemetry. Detections will focus on factor enrollment anomalies, uncharacteristic privilege escalations, off-hours data access, and session patterns that suggest token theft or replay. Response will evolve beyond disable the account to invalidate tokens across all relying parties, strip roles across the identity provider, force re-authentication with high-assurance factors, and quarantine the device. These will be rehearsed motions, not bespoke heroics. Seventh, extortion playbooks on the defender side will mature. Companies will predefine positions on paying for deletion, on notifying affected individuals when the scope is uncertain, and on coordinating with law enforcement. Communication strategies will be drafted that speak to guests in plain language about risk and remediation, without feeding panic. Legal will harmonize disclosure obligations across jurisdictions to avoid the paralysis that comes from juggling 50 subtly different rules. When the note arrives, the team will not be inventing their ethics on the fly. Eighth, regulators and insurers will push alignment. Expect audits that ask not, do you have MFA, but how many privileged identities are bound to phishing-resistant factors, and how do you enforce device trust? Expect cyber policies that make identity maturity a prerequisite for coverage. Expect hospitality regulators to treat guest PII handling with a seriousness long reserved for payment card data, because the harm profile has converged. Ninth, culture will either become a control or a liability. Organizations that celebrate the help desk rep who says no, the engineer who deletes an overprivileged role, and the manager who kills a temporary exception will be harder to hurt. Organizations that still treat identity as an IT chore will remain vulnerable to a voice and a script. Culture shows up in tickets and logs. It's the permission structure for doing the right thing under pressure. The incident at Caesars is a case study in how much that permission structure matters. Finally, the attacker economy will continue to specialize. Identity initial access brokers will sell verified footholds into specific brands. Negotiation as a service will coach affiliates to maximize ransom without triggering law enforcement responses. Leak sites will become more sophisticated in SEO and in targeted outreach to victims' customers. Defenders need to assume that the next adversary will be not just technically adept, but operationally disciplined, with runbooks that mirror their own. Return to that first phone call, the unremarkable moment that, in hindsight, looms like a hinge. The person on the line wanted help. The person on the line got help. A series of systems designed for convenience and speed did exactly what they were told to do by a voice that sounded like it belonged. Weeks later, a leadership team stared at samples of data that never should have left, and at a demand that translated into a moral math problem. Do we write a check to contain harm? Or do we risk making a statement that leaves our guests carrying the burden? There is a temptation, after an incident like this, to look for a villain or a silver bullet. The villain is easy. Blame the attacker whose business model treats human lives as leverage. The silver bullet is harder because it does not exist. There is only the long, necessary work of making identity truth harder to counterfeit, of making access proportional to need, of making data less portable to those who do not need it, and of making your organization fluent at saying we know what happened. We know who is affected, and we are acting like it matters. If you lead, lead with identity. Fund phishing-resistant factors this quarter, not next fiscal. Replace knowledge-based help desk verification with hardware-backed challenges. Kill standing admin. Demand vendor parity and enforce it. Ask for a report that lists every pathway by which a single person could, today, reach your loyalty data. That report will be your real risk register. If you build and run for denial of leverage. Document where sensitive data lives. Remove exports that feel convenient and are actually dangerous. Instrument your identity provider, like the mission-critical app it is. Practice identity incident response as a muscle. Token invalidation, role strip back, forced re-authentication, communication to affected teams in one fluid motion. Teach your help desk that suspicion is not rudeness. Give them tools so their suspicion is a workflow, not a hunch. If you advocate for guests, advocate loudly. Demand clarity from brands about what they hold and how they protect it. When an incident occurs, judge not only the breach but the response. Did the company speak plainly? Did it offer meaningful support? Did it change anything? Loyalty is a two-way contract. The perk should come with proof of care. And if you are listening from a place where incidents feel far away, hear this. The playbook that caught Caesars in 2023 isn't exotic. It's a voice, a reset, a foothold, a copy. It's the water finding the lowest point in your process. You cannot dam the ocean, but you can raise your ground. Make identity proof strong enough that a voice is not enough. Make access narrow enough that a foothold hits a wall. Make data still enough that a copy is obvious. Then practice until the day it matters feels like another drill. The casino floor loves a story that ends with the house winning. Security doesn't get happy endings, just better or worse ones. Caesar's incident is a reminder that the better endings belong to organizations that treat identity as safety critical and data stewardship as sacred. Do the work. Set the guardrails. Give your people permission to be inconvenient in defense of the brand. And the next time a voice calls the night shift with just the right words, let the system answer with a firm, automatic no.